Good morning, good morning, good morning. We appreciate you all being here this morning. Sorry for the lateness. We were jumping off of another meeting, but so excited to have you here today for this webinar, Get Your Board on Board, Transform Your Board into Fundraising Champions. So really excited that you all were able to join us today and to actually get a sense of how you can move your board into this amazing direction to become champions for your organization and your nonprofit. So I need to do a couple of things real quick. And if you could just type in the chat where you are from, if you are a founder, what your role is in your organization, that would be really great for us to know. So yeah, if you could type that in the chat. I'd like to know who all is here today. Awesome, awesome. From Maryland, chair and founder, welcome. All right, we're gonna get started. Hopefully, if there's any problems with my screen or anything like that, just let me know. Rooney, I'm not able to do the YouTube for some reason. It is not showing up. But let me see if I pause the recording, if that will make it happen. Well, again, good morning. My name is Sharon Jones, and I am the founder and CEO of Solutions Matter. We are a management consulting firm that works with nonprofits across the globe. I come to this work with 30 years of experience, raising over $250 million across arts, education, health, religion, human services sector. $250 million is a lot of money, but you got to think about it. It's over 30 years. My first introduction into working with nonprofits came out of working in corporate America in the newspaper industry as a writer, segued over to writing grants. And my first grant, I raised $10 million from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. And that's when I knew that this was my calling and where I needed to be. So it's really excited about that and kind of living the dream. So let me just tell you a little bit about Solutions Matter. We've helped over 300 nonprofits obtain their 501c3 incorporation here in the US. And we help them from beginning to end, board recruitment, board onboarding and training, developing their first organizing meeting, the planning and strategic visioning for the organization. We actually spend time sitting with that founder and executive director, helping them to really get a sense of what it is that they are wanting to do. We help put together their business plans. And then the fun part that I love is the resource development and really helping them to acquire the resources that they need to adequately have money to sustain their organization. So I think that that's something that's really important and really key in these controls. So we do nonprofit startup, board development, resource development and planning. I want to just kind of hover here for a minute. We talk about resource development planning. It's really, really important to plan your fundraising activities. And so you're here a little bit later on. We'll be talking about planning and what that looks like. And then if you email us after this training, we'll actually give you a template that you can use to begin to develop a strategic resource development plan that will carry you through the year. And we can also work with you to help you do that. We help with branding for impact, donor research, which is something I love. We do market studies and wealth screenings, so you can really begin to acquire new donors into your organization. That's something that's really key for us, and we're really excited about that and how we do that work. So it's really, really important for us. So let me tell you a little bit of what we do and why I just love that I consider that we do disrupting of organizations. And so disrupting the industry for us really looks like us changing the conversation. And this just comes from years of experience working in this field. We talk a lot about fundraising, and we act like fundraising is sort of the be all and end all to everything. And it isn't actually. It is actually a subset of resource development. And I'm sorry, there's so many things happening with my screen. Please forgive me. Just clicking away. And so with resource development, it involves acquiring and managing resources for the nonprofit organization by creating the infrastructure to identify, cultivate, manage, report impact, and steward gifts. That's what the umbrella is, resource development. Fundraising then is the subset of resource development, and it involves collecting the funds through which you get the donations. You do your events, your partnerships, your grants. All of those kinds of things are the tasks, the activities are what is fundraising. The resource development is the overhead of management of those documents. And so our team will help you develop the different strategies that you need to begin to live in that space and understand what this means. So this is just another sort of picture of what this looks like for you to see side by side. Fundraising is staff driven. Resource development is board driven, staff supported. Fundraising is standalone, like special events. They're one time, one and done. But resource development, if I'm painting this picture for you, is comprehensive. It's having an integrated resource development plan, everything from annual giving, major gifts, to even planned giving. But you have a strategy behind each of those activities that you are doing. Fundraising, I like to say, it's kind of one and done, twisting people's arms to give, hitting them up, begging for money. Oh, please support our poor organization. But when you look at resource development and you think about it through that lens, it is really opportunities for donors to engage with your organization and really help them to really understand what you do and how you do it. And so those things are really, really key. The other thing around fundraising is you're doing it to keep the doors open because you really haven't developed a sustainable revenue stream that allows you to have the money for overhead that you need to keep your operation going. So that's something that's really, really key. But resource development has solutions that demonstrate greater impact for you. Fundraising, a list of faceless names, people that give on through your social media, or through crowdfunding, or through letter invites and those kinds of things. But resource development is that infrastructure with a database of donors that are inspired to make transformational gifts. These are people that are giving, 5 and 6 figure gifts to your organization because they believe in your mission. You spend time cultivating them and working with them, and that they will even leave you in their estate plan, in their will. So those are the kinds of things that happen in that umbrella of resource development. And finally, you're raising money for today. You don't know how many calls we get every week from a founder, a CEO, that's saying, we are 2 pay cycles away from not being able to pay our staff or close the doors, or we really need money now. Can you help us write a grant? Those kinds of things, which are just, it's just a Band-Aid to the situation. But if you look at resource development, it is really having vibrant resources that are sustainable for generations to come. So you're not just raising money for today to sustain your organization and keep it going, but we're creating thriving organizations that allow you to be able to have an opportunity to to reach generations to come. So this is just another picture of what this looks like. And I'd like for you to kind of take a look at this. I'm not going to go through each one of them, but when you talk about what does building a culture of philanthropy mean, and that's exactly what this is that I am speaking of. It is an opportunity to be proactive in your outreach. It's strategic and integrated. It's relationship-based, not transactional-based. It aligns with your message, your mission, and your vision. And it also is donor-centered. Donors are making an investment in a long-term relationship with your organization. It is major gift focused. I'm not going to have time to go into what major and planned gifts are, but if you don't have those strategies, you need to think about them, because that's what's going to make your organization sustainable. And then it's also the board and CEO's priority in this. And so that's where you really want to live, and it's really an abundance mentality. So I've said a lot just as a precursor to what we will be talking about today, to really help your organization to get your board in a place where it is really thriving and having your board really engaged. So I have the honor now to introduce you to an amazing individual. This individual is someone who works on our team as the Vice President of Client Services. He is an amazing individual that works with us in donor acquisition, client acquisition. He has a wealth of experience. He owns a nonprofit himself, organization himself, called the Nonprofit School. He's an author. He's recently certified as a certified nonprofit executive, certified development executive, certified nonprofit consultant. He has a radio show for us, podcast. We do live donor testimonials. He is an absolute theon when it comes to knowing nonprofit work and knowing what we do. So he is our presenter for today. We are sort of co-presenting, going back and forth, but you'll see his credentials here. It is my honor to introduce you to Akpesiri Otelba. This is Rooney, as we call him. Rooney, I am turning it over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Thank you so much. Sharon, I can't put on my video. Can you help me with that?
I can. Let's see where you are.
Well. Sharon, you've said so much. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. That clear distinction between fundraising and, resource development. It is something we've always talked about.
Okay.
Nonprofits okay? Yeah, I think it's up now.
Yeah.
So it's something we've always talked about. Nonprofits are having this challenge, really differentiating between what resource development is and what fundraising is. Like you clearly stated, fundraising is a subset of resource development. It's because if you look at it from the lens of fundraising, you're going to look at it from the lens of a transaction, from the lens of, getting the money and going on your way. But when you look at it from the perspective of resource development, it's really about building that network of supporters, really, building a cohesive, a collective effort towards addressing the need that you meet within the society. So thank you so much for that wonderful explanation, Sharon. Today, of course, we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic: how to transform your board members into fundraising champions. I know every founder or every nonprofit executive here has that challenge. There's this board member who's not even supporting. Sometimes it's even the entire board, right? And then you find that the founder or the board president is being the jack of all trades, trying to do everything, trying to get the organization all up by themselves. And this is really a sad scenario because we've seen that the board sets the tone for the organization. If the board is solid, the organization is usually solid. If the board is distant, is dormant, you end up always finding that the organization is dormant and, you know, not really as it's supposed to be. So this is a very common challenge, and many nonprofits have found themselves in that position today. But of course, there's good news, right? There's something you can do to get it right from today. If you've not even gotten into the process already, you are in the right place. You can actually now start taking the right step towards getting your organization to that point where your board members are real champions, where your board members are advocates of the organization, where your board members are showing up in areas that they can, you know, that they are good at, in areas that they've built experience and expertise in. And not just that, where your board members are also opening doors for your organization, introducing you to their network, opening new opportunities to the organization. So I want to welcome every one of you today, of course, because today we're going to be going into the steps that are going to get your organization to where you want to get it to. So the very first step is 100% board giving, which is creating a culture of philanthropy across the organization. We're going to talk about this because it is the very beginning of the process, right? You can't expect people who can't give to your mission to talk to others to give to your mission. So first, we need to first of all come to from the very beginning, 100% board giving. And then we're now going to go on to the next step, which we call the resource development planning. Really, this is where the board members get to come together. This is where we bring everybody's attention to the organization. And then we're going to go on to the aspect of building committees, equipping these committees so that they can be able to, you know, support your organization. We'll then move on to creating a schedule and an accountability system that ensures that board members meet up to expectations, they do what they are supposed to do. And of course, at the end of the day, we're going to look at the execution of this entire process. So when I use the word fundraising, don't get me wrong, I'm actually talking about resource development, but because I know you all are in tune with fundraising, so of course I'm going to keep using the word fundraising. But at the core of it, like Sharon said, it is resource development, where you are actually setting up a collective action towards going after resources, going after money, going after materials that you need to make your mission a reality. So let's go on to the very first step of the entire process of getting your board members to support you. We talked about 100% board giving. What does this even mean? Why should your board members even give to your organization in the first place? You know, I being one who has traveled a lot, I've been to the UK, and I've been seeing where some board members are like, how can I give my money to an organization that I'm already giving my time, my effort to support? Well, I'll tell you this, the idea in the US, it's quite different. It's lovely and it's good, but it is not just a moral responsibility. It is a compulsory responsibility. You can't say you love me without giving to me. Right? In short, the word love is an action word. It means giving. It means charity. So it means if you love your mission, if you're committed to your mission, you should be able to put your money where your mouth is, where your love is. Really, and that is what the culture of philanthropy is. Having every board member to step forward to support the organization. Of course, not in a function where you're being forced to pay a particular amount, but in a situation where you are giving voluntarily from the heart, according to as you are blessed, to be able to support the very mission you're going to invite others to support. This is crucial because for you to be able to tell others to support your organization, you have to first of all support your organization. For you to be able to introduce your organization to others and take ownership of it, your money has to be in there. Why most nonprofits are struggling is because their board members don't even have a dime of their dollar within the organization. So of course, the organization is just like a hobby that they come to just, but when they know they are invested, They know some of their resources are in there. They are part of the people who supporting this organization to get to where it is. They are more likely going to go through with you, support you in terms of fundraising, open doors, introduce the organization to more opportunities. So, of course, it is by doing this one step, you have established what we call a culture of philanthropy. Because it is now known that within the board, of course, there's a culture of philanthropy that must be adhered to. So what does the culture of philanthropy actually look like? There is a founder and CEO leadership. The founder and CEO championed by board members. We've always seen where the board members hire a CEO and then they expect the CEO to just do everything. Like just go raise money, go execute programs, and then they set up expectations so high for these CEOs that they don't even provide enough support for these CEOs to do their job. So how do you expect that to happen? So really, the culture of philanthropy is knowing that as board members, you have to be able to support your CEO, you have to be able to support your development person, your fundraiser, to be able to raise money, to be able to do their job as they are supposed to do. So as we've known, resource development is everybody's job. And of course, that is what the culture of philanthropy is all about. Getting everybody to know that resource development, bringing in money, supporting this organization is everyone's job, right? Now, on to the next step. The resource development. Yeah, no, the next step after this, I'll have to come back to this, or you can come back to it.
Okay.
Now, the next step is once you've been able to bring, and one thing I want you to know is 100% board giving must be advocated before the board members come into the organization. It is important they know that they are coming into an organization where they are expected to give off their resources to be able to support the organization. You don't bring people in and then begin to hold them to such commitment. You let them know this is a commitment that's expected, and that is one key important factor we do when we bring in new board members for organizations we work with, because we also handle board recruitment for organization. So it happens from the very beginning, even before these board members come in. And now when these board members then come in, what do you now do? Board members have been able to support you. Some have been giving you $10,000, some $100,000, some $1,000. Now they've supported you at that beginning. What's the next step? The next step is planning. And indeed, planning is key for board members. In community development, we say people who plan together execute together. So if you're not planning with your board members and you expect that they just take up your fundraising plan and begin to run with it, it is almost impossible that won't happen. By forcing your plan on your board members, you may end up losing them. But planning with them, you give them ownership of the organization. You give them the opportunity to be able to share their ideas, to expose you to opportunities that you may not have seen by yourself. So after ensuring 100% board giving, the next step is to do what we call the resource development planning. And this is really where you hold a roundtable discussion with these board members to discuss on what resources do we need to make this vision a reality, or our goals over the next year a reality. How do we find these resources? Who do we reach out to get these resources? What will it cost us to get these resources? All that has to be planned together by the board. Of course, you could actually reach out to stakeholders, reach out to the wider community, have your executive team be a part of that planning. But it is very crucial the board is the source of that plan, because it is the board that's going to drive that plan by supporting your people down the chain to execute that plan so it can become a reality. So, of course, the next step after planning is what we call the committee creation. You inaugurate committees and then you equip them to be able to execute. So once you've developed a plan, we've been able to develop a plan that says we need materials, in-kind donations. We need funding. We need social credibility. We need partnerships to be able to actualize our plans for the next 2 years. The next goal will be to set up committees that will drive these different aspects of resources that you need for your organization to thrive. And usually these committees starts with board members. Of course, there are positions that there are roles that staff, volunteers, stakeholders within the committee can play, community can play within these committees, but it is usually the board members who initiate these committees. And then we can now build staff, volunteers, stakeholders around these committees to support the function of the committees. So you see, that's really how you build a committee and then equip the committee, so that the board members are taking on the high-level task, and then the staff or the volunteers are doing the heavy work. In terms of, for example, a committee that's set up to bring in corporate partnership for an organization, a part of the committee is going to be in charge of meeting with the executives of these brands, and another part of this committee is going to be in charge of running the outreach. So, for example, the staff, the volunteers are running outreach on a daily basis to set up meetings, and then board members are coming into these meetings to meet with these executives to discuss, negotiate on behalf of the organization, and make the ask. So it is really about setting these committees, because why committees are really important is, as a board, you can't be everywhere. If your board is running after major gifts, your board is running after corporate partnership, your board is running after individual donation at the same time, you find out that you are either putting all your attention on one area and leaving other areas behind, or you are spread thin on these different areas that you are not creating enough results. So the best way to address that is to set up committees within the board that can go after these resources and then report to the board. That way, the board can be an all-in-one board. You're pursuing these different initiatives, yet the initiatives come back to the board, report to the board can then empower these committees to go back and keep pursuing those initiatives they've been mandated to pursue. So that really is where board committees come in, and equipping them with volunteers, staff, and stakeholders to support them is really the step to go. Of course, you can also equip them with marketing materials, donor database, funding, whatever that's necessary to help them actualize their task, their mandate. That's what you must equip them with. So once you have this board, you've been able to equip them on to the next step. The next step is really where we now create a schedule and accountability process. Now, this is it. This is where most nonprofits get it wrong. They think you can just bring a board member in and then automatically they just begin to blend in and just stay accountable to your organization. Because at the beginning, they find out that these board members may be motivated, they are so passionate, they are enthusiastic, right? But what happens is, without having these accountability processes in place in your board, when these board members come in less than 6 months, you find that the motivation dwindles. You find that they are almost nowhere to be found, because there's no system in place to ensure that these guys are following through on what they're supposed to do and they're accountable. So this is why a major part of the resource development process is putting accountability processes in place to ensure that people are doing what they are expected to do. People are taking on responsibilities they are supposed to take on. So this is really where that comes in. And then where the creative schedule comes in is really around the committee. Now you have a committee that's been designated to go after corporate partnership. What is their schedule of activities? How do they want to go about that? Of course, it's the committee that has to come together and agree on what their schedule will look like. But they have to create a schedule and report back to the board saying, this is the schedule of execution we've agreed on. This is how we want to execute. And then they get the board's blessing to go on that path. That is really where resource development, creating a schedule really comes in. So that as the volunteers and the staff are going out there on a day-to-day basis to set up these meetings with these board, with these executives of the, say, for example, we're looking at corporate partnership now. these board members, these stakeholders who are part of this committee can then go into these meetings to make the ask, negotiate the deal on behalf of the organization. And then these guys, so for example, if you have an outreach schedule where you are launching outreach on a day-to-day basis using volunteers and staff, you could choose a day. The committee could pick a day that they choose to, go into these meetings to meet with these executives that this outreach committee, outreach team set up meetings for. So for example, a committee could choose, say, a day like Friday, and then all the meetings that's been set by the outreach team will be set on Friday so that the committee can be available to go into that meeting and then make the ask on behalf of the organization. That is really the kind of support board members provide. You can now say, if you want to support us in terms of fundraising for an hour or 2 hours a day, you can be able to support the organization as regards fundraising. And it's really based on that agreed schedule that has been agreed upon as regards the execution. Then board members begin to just fall in line. So like I said, it is the committee responsibilities to create this schedule, but it is the board's responsibility to create the accountability process. So usually the accountability processes we put in place, it is a board leadership process where the board leadership is reaching out to each committee chair at the beginning of every week to find out what are your expectations, what are you supposed to be doing this week, what are your goals for this week, and then at the end of the week to also follow up to say, what did we get right, what did we get wrong, what are we going to be doing next week. That follow-up is an accountability process that ensures people stay according to the path. Because when your board member knows you're going to be reaching out to find out where they are, they most likely are going to want to take some form of action towards that direction, even if they are lazy people. Of course, there are other accountability processes. You could have them send in reports. You could have them, just set up your own accountability process that works for you. But one thing I know that has always works is a direct phone call. You don't have to set up a meeting to make it look too official. Just a direct phone call on a Monday morning to say, what are we doing this week? What has to be done this week? And then a direct phone call at the end of the week to say, what have you done? What's left? What's missing out? What support do you need to be able to create better results? That is the kind of approach that actually brings results. So you must be able to have that system in place. The truth is, regardless of how people are, even if they are passionate, even if they are not lazy, if there is no system to keep them engaged and consistent, they are most likely going to fall off. So this is really where the accountability process comes in. Now you have an accountability process. They've been able to create a schedule of execution. Each board member now know how they support each committee. So when you inaugurate the committee, of course, you have to give them the opportunity to pick committees they want to work within. So through those committees, they can take on responsibilities, and then you can now begin to hold them responsible through those committees. Now, off to step 6, where we now move on to the real action. Now, they now have a schedule of activity. They now have an accountability process in place. What does that execution look like? Executing with board members require a lot of strategic and intentional, approach. You're dealing with people who are not professional board members, who are not professional fundraisers. So it means you need to be able to help them grow. You need to be able to help them execute. You need to be able to grow them to the point where they're confident enough to begin to take on these things all by themselves. That's really where you need to be very strategic and intentional. You must not be a bully or one who goes after every board member to say, like you're always threatening. You need to be able to know how to apply diplomacy. There are strategies to get people to do things, and you need to be able to learn those strategies. When you want people to do things, there are ways you put it to them, and then they would be happy to help you execute. That is really the tact and the strategy that's required for execution. So what are the tact and strategies that are required for you to execute? One, having a close engagement with your board members, having that honest, transparent conversation, open conversation. What is the challenge? Why are you not creating results? Why are you not meeting up to your expectations? Why are you not meeting up to your responsibilities? What kind of help do you need to be able to execute? Do I connect you to this support? Do I connect you to these resources? All that are going to be very necessary when working with these board members. You all are going to be building capacity throughout this process. So it is very important you understand and you support them throughout the process, from the very beginning to the point where they begin to help you create results. So let me give you an example of one of the ways you can support them. For example, during the committee stage, you must have equipped your board members with pitch deck, elevator pitch that they could help you to, open doors to community, that their own network. You can set up a system to ensure that when these board members open these doors, for example, make the introduction, there's a system that follows up with the introduction. So the board members feel very comfortable in just simply opening up the conversation because they know that there's a system that will follow up. That's just one aspect of execution you may have to think about when it comes to executing with board members. Another aspect of execution you have to think about is celebrating that small win. So, for example, a board member made an introduction to a CEO. Even if you're yet to make money off that transaction, you should be celebrating that board member in your board meeting to say, this person did something good, so that others can begin to see that truly they can be recognized for their effort. When people are appreciated, they are more likely to go and do further. I think we're all in the image of God, because God said, if you appreciate me for my finger, I'll show you my hand. That's how we all humans are. So knowing how to celebrate success, knowing how to recognize them, giving them awards, sending them a thank you letter, working with them to execute, providing them tools, resources, pitch deck, whatever that they need to be able to execute, all that are critical in ensuring that they execute with you, and of course, they create results. Of course, there's a place of measuring and evaluating their results. Now, let's say, for example, we could all give the board a target to say, introduce us to 12 people within your network within a year. You have to be able to follow up to say, were you able to meet up with your target? What happened? How can we make sure we make better results next year? You don't just put expectations out there and then leave them to it. You must follow up to make sure like whatever expectations you put ahead of them, they are following through. And of course, they are taking the right action. Again, execution is really where the tire meets the road. There is so much you can do with your board members. There is so much you can be able to achieve with them. But it's going to require you to be able to know how to execute with them, and then how to be able to, hold them so that they can continue to keep that motivation, that enthusiasm that they've started with in the very first place. Of course, planning with them at the beginning is very critical to hold their commitment throughout the process. But your diplomacy, your support, your understanding, your providing them access to professional development, all that would ensure that they support you. I have actually worked with an organization where each board member has a virtual assistant attached to the board member to be able to help them execute, because they are very busy board members. So that's to show you the level of support that you could provide some of these board members so that they can be able to help you execute. A virtual assistant could cost you a couple of dollars in a month. But at the end of the day, if your board members have quality network, if your board members are quality people, you may be surprised the results you may get from that approach. So really, let's recap. You can be able to get your board members to support your organization. You can be able to get them to support resource development. You can be able to get them to come in and say, yes, let's run with this organization with the whole of our hearts. But it's going to require you to have a standard process. And this is the process that we have listed today. It starts from before they join the board, where you are advocating for 100% board giving, to after joining the board, where you plan with them. If you don't plan with a new board member who's joining the board, you are leaving that board member blind and confused. So once you've been able to advocate for 100% board giving, plan with them so that everybody can know that this organization is ours. Planning, I would always tell founders I work with that planning is like a blending process. It transforms the vision from my vision to our vision. And that is the commitment you need to, that's going to follow through from creating committees to scheduling and executing to even executing. If they don't have an ownership, then it would never work. So that's why planning is very important. And then, of course, when it comes to the execution, setting up for execution, the board itself cannot run after every aspect of fundraising opportunity. The board can't go after a grant at the same time, go after a major gift at the same time. That's why you need committees. Of course, there's the role of having staff who can actually come in and then do a lot of the fundraising work. But when it comes to organizing the board to raise money, you should be able to have a clear vision of all the opportunities, and using committees can be able to help you assess all these committees. Then equipping the committees by bringing in staff and volunteers to support, equipping the committees by providing them tools, content, resources that they need to be able to execute, working with them to create a schedule of execution so that everybody can know when they are supposed to support and what time they have to support the organization, setting up accountability process so that everybody knows that your expectations, we are going to be holding you to them. We are following up with you. This isn't just leaving you to you. We are working with you to make sure you're successful. And then executing with them, working with them at their pace, supporting them, providing them resources, connecting them to support, taking up whatever connection they bring back to the organization. All that are steps that are going to help you transform your board members into fundraising champions, into people who would bring in millions of dollars into your organization to ensure that you get the support that you need. Now, you have all the information you need. What is left is to take action, is to start implementing these steps today, and watch as your board evolves into a driving force for your organization's financial growth and future. I'm so happy to have really, talk you all through this, because I know this is one factor that can transform your organization if you start taking action immediately. So if you're struggling with your board, you're struggling to raise money, you need support to be able to get your board to start supporting you to raise money, feel free to schedule a free discovery call with us. We would help you look into your board, provide you ideas, and at the end of the day, whatever support you need forward, we would be happy to be a willing partner to support you with both the resources, tools, persons to make your board and your organization the dream you've always wanted it to be. So thank you and thank you.
Guys, we are so excited that you are here today. We want to take some time to answer any questions that you may have. You can drop your questions in the chat, and we'll be happy for you to have Rooney to answer those for you. Didn't he do an amazing job of just outlining exactly the steps that you need to get your board in gear to help you with your resource development? So I'm going to check in the chat and see if there are any questions. Someone says, I think this is where we made our mistake. We did not communicate the 100% board giving at the beginning. So how do we adopt this concept moving forward? So that's part one, Rooney. If you want to answer that. They didn't tackle that in the beginning, but now they want to. So what do they do?
So I am one who is very heavy on consensus when it comes to board. It is basically you now throwing it back to the board to make a decision around it. And I think it's now left for you to start from step 2. Bring the board in for resource development planning. Once you all have been able to identify this is the kind of materials, this is the funding, this is the partnership, this is support we need to be able to actualize our plan for the coming year, you all can now say, how do we raise this money? The CEO, the board director, the board chair, or the board president can now put forward, the proposition that says we should all be able to put our money where our mouth is. How about we start by supporting, putting together some startup resources for this funding we're looking to grow. That way, it would now be back to the board to say, let's agree on how much can we support. And again, it doesn't have to be a certain amount. I'm really very careful about this because, of course, if you put out a certain amount, somebody might want to give you 10,000 and then you're putting 1,000, you're losing out of opportunity and also causing restriction within other people. So what I would always do is I'll always put it forward as the widow's mite. I'll tell you it's a concept of the widow's mite. What can you support? We now all know we need $200,000. Of course, this is beyond, if you're looking for $200,000, nobody should be talking about supporting with $200, right? So it's really about, this is what we're looking for. How best can you support us to get there? And then it's left to the board member to be very sincere to say, this is how I can support. But at that point, you have to put it back to the board to say, this is what we're looking to raise. First, let's band around it. Because if we don't band around this and bring our money first, people may not even be able to give to us. There are grantors out there who would not give you grants except they see 100% board giving in your board. Or, there are founders, there are corporations out there who probably would want to see that you have, first of all, put your money forward into what you're asking them to put forward or put their money to. So it's really having that planning session with them and then laying it all out to them to say, this is what we want to raise. It is best we all, first of all, take a step before we begin to ask people to take a step.
Awesome. That was an amazing answer. Thank you so much. So we have another question here from Amber, and she says, it's very hard to compile a board of directors. Finding a group of dedicated, or more coming in, hold on, a group of dedicated individuals working on compliments and thank yous. I did not invite them to the board with an agreement of their contributing personal funding, and everyone's resources are scarce. Be that time or money. So, not really sure that's the question, but a comment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand what she's trying to ask. Just like the last question I answered, you've already brought them in. You can't now start saying it's 100% board giving. If you start with that approach, you may, push them away. So it's best you all plan together. That planning is where you now say what programs. Let me just get you straight to the point. What I recommend is invite all board members in for a work planning meeting. Work planning is where you define the programs, events, and activities you're going to be executing over the next year or next 2 years. Once you all agree on these are the programs and events we want to execute, next is now to develop a budget that's going to help you execute on those programs and events. At the end of developing that budget, you're going to have a figure that says $300,000, $100,000. At that point, you can now put it back to them and say, we need to be able to raise this money and we have to go ask people. But we can't ask people if we ourselves have not been able to give to support this. So what we are going to have to first of all do as a board is support this mission. So it's no longer about you saying 100% board giving, no longer using that language, but you are basically using the language that says before we go out there to ask people, we should first of all ask ourselves. Charity begins at home. So how can we support this first before we now put our fundraising outreach out there? That way, it would now be a reasonable agreement to say, okay, because we know this is a reasonable move, let's all make it, right? That's really, then since Since you know support is likely there, any thoughts to consider on inviting friends and families to become board members? I'll tell you that's a very tricky part. We've seen so many nonprofits struggling because they brought in friends and family. The truth is, if it's about funding, most of your friends and family will support you in terms of funding, even without you bringing them on the board. So ask for support if you need to ask for. But if you feel they have the skills, they have the expertise, the passion, the will to run as board members, then of course you should be able to have them in and not just ask for money. But if you feel it's just about getting them to support you in terms of money, we even have an advisory board. You could set up an advisory board where you could have these goodwill people who are well-wishers who support you, and then they feel like they're affiliated with the organization. They have their role, advisory board members of this organization. They could put that on LinkedIn everywhere. But of course, you want people who know what they are doing, who have the skills, who have the support to be on that board so you can get the kind of support you need. Can we get the slide? Yes, you can get the slide of this recording. It will be shared on YouTube. So we would share the link for the recording immediately after the recording of this presentation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I don't see any, do I see any more questions?
Our board chair, I think I see one. Our board chair is weak. He doesn't hold members to the award. There's lack of accountability. What can we do? That's a tricky one. So, of course, I would always say your board chair shouldn't be weak. There's no way you would have a weak board chair and be successful, because humans are like, I think a lot of us still have the babies in us. So one, we want to be pets, we want to be pampered and drawn along. And two, we still also need somebody who's going to call us to say, stand up and move. Don't sit there, somebody who's really going to push us to really be who we're supposed to be. So you need a chair who can actually play that role. Where they need to pamper, they know how to pamper, and where they have to be hard, have to show up, for example, Sharon can be that person. She can know how to, pamper you along, but when you have to stand up and move, she's going to get you to stand up and move. So, you need somebody like that. I'll tell you, either you have a conversation with the board chair to say, you have to step up, or you step aside so that somebody who doesn't mind stepping on toes, but knows exactly what he's doing, should come in to get these people to move with you. Really, it's my thought around it.
I just want to add to that as well. If you set up your structure correctly, then board should have terms. And so you could wait it out. And as you're waiting it out, you're looking and trying to identify someone else that's on the board that's strong, that's no nonsense, that you can begin to cultivate to move into that chair position when that term for the existing chair rotates off. So sometimes it's just wait patiently, coach, and be patient. But when they rotate off, kick them out. Plaque them, whack them and plaque them is what I say. So we're gonna move on. And Rooney knows that that's sort of my motto. It's just like, you gotta get the dead weight out of the situation. Love you. We'll give you a wonderful plaque, but you gotta go. So let me just share with you, I don't see any other questions, but just want to kind of go through some exclusive offers that we have for you all who took your holiday weekend, beginning of this long 3-day weekend, to spend your time with us. So we have a couple of different offers that we want you to be aware of that we have for you for attending today. The first is our board member empowerment, and it really goes through everything Rooney has discussed, but even in more detail. You get a workbook, you get everything that you need to take action. And so we do these in half-day workshops, full day workshops. You can see it here. And then some of the deliverables from there is just really comprehensive training where you can have a customized board manual. We're reviewing all of your documents, making sure your business plan, your strategic plan is in place. But you have all of these different worksheets and templates that you can use. We do these virtually, but we also do these in person as well. So what I would suggest that you do is to book a discovery call where you can learn about the special pricing for these workshops that we have for you for attending today. And again, we're just so grateful that you all spent your time today with us, and we appreciate it. Book your call. You'll also receive a follow-up email that will have the link specifically to our YouTube channel. And I would love to ask that you follow us on YouTube, you like us, but you'll see all of our webinars. We did a summer webinar series for the entire month of August. And so you can go back and look at those every day, however you need to get those nuggets that we pulled in from different consultants that are on our team. I was talking to one of our clients yesterday when I called. He actually was in the middle of watching one of the videos that we had done with one of the webinars. So we know these things are valuable. We know that they are working for individuals. But again, your call to action today and your next steps are to book that discovery call with Rooney so you can begin to understand exactly how to take next steps. That is a 30-minute free call for you, so take advantage of it. You'll also have that in the email follow-up as well, the link to the discovery call, and then the link to our YouTube channel. So again, today, we just want to say thank you for stopping in and spending your time with us. And if there are no other questions, I think we are done. Have a great day. Enjoy your holiday weekend. And thank you so much. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Miss Carolyn. Take care, all. Bye.
Bye-bye.